Good day, good people, and welcome to Revolutionary Belovedness. Tonight's reflection is on compassionate action and service in ordinary life, integrating care for others into daily choices, relationships, and responsibilities. Before we get started, if you will, let me know that you can hear me okay in the chat section. All right, thank you for that. Good, thank you. Let's take a moment to center down and settle into being present here now. Find a comfortable and alert posture, one that allows the body to feel both supported and awake. Let your hands rest open in your lap. Let it be a small gesture of receptivity. Allow your eyes to soften or close. Draw a long, slow breath into your lower belly. Feel it arrive. And feel the slight pause at the fullness of the inhale. Then release the breath gently, unhurried, as if you are setting something down that you have been carrying. Breathe again this way. On each inhale, receive. On each exhale, release. Receive. Release. There is nothing to accomplish in this moment. The breath itself is an act of care. Simply allowing the body to be breathed is, in its own way, an opening toward the sacred. So as you settle, bring to mind one person in your life who has, at some ordinary moment, extended care towards you. Perhaps it was a word spoken at the right time or a presence held quietly at your side. And feel the weight of what that offered. Let it land. Now, carry that warmth as you enter this session with us all together. I would like to remind everyone that the chat section remains open, so at any time you have something that you would like to share, a personal reflection, you want to echo something you have heard, maybe even a question, anything at all really, feel free to use the chat section. Friends, Wayne Teasdale wrote that love in action, selfless service, and compassionate response to the sufferings of others is the proof of the genuineness of one's spiritual life. Now that phrase deserves to be held slowly, turned over with care. The proof of the spiritual life. Teasdale was precise in his language. He was saying that whatever heights of contemplation a person may reach, whatever depth of inner transformation they claim, the verification of that journey appears in the texture of ordinary caring. The mystical life, in his understanding, is confirmed in how a person shows up on a Tuesday morning for someone who is struggling. It shows up in how care moves through the unremarkable routines of daily existence. And this is worth sitting with because so much of spiritual culture gravitates towards the exceptional. We are drawn to the saint's luminous hour, to the mystic's moment of union, to the dramatic turning point of conversion or awakening. These are real, and Teasdale honored them deeply. At the same time, though, he understood something essential about the arc of genuine spiritual life. Its proof is cumulative, woven through ordinary choices, small gestures, daily attention given freely to another person's reality. The extraordinary and the ordinary are, in the end, the same movement of love, one simply more visible than the other. Compassionate action at this level emerges from the inside out. And Teasdale described this with characteristic tenderness. The more we are immersed in the divine presence, he wrote, the more we become love in action. The capacity to respond to others from the innateness of love, compassion, kindness, and sensitivity is directly related to how deeply a person inhabits their own spiritual life. You cannot give what you do not have. The person who prays deeply, who sits in silence, who cultivates the interior life over years, begins to find that their responses in the world carry a different quality. The edges soften, the capacity for patience deepens. Something within them has been shaped by encounter with a love that asks to be shared. And that shaping eventually surfaces in the way they move through ordinary days. Maybe you have had one of those experiences you'd like to share in the chat. Greg Boyle, who is the founder of, well, that was on the tip of my tongue. Yes, thank you. Homeboy Industries. Wow, some days. He says that you don't go to the margins to make a difference. Then it's about you. But you go to the margins so that the folks at the margins make you different. Then it's about us. And so the goal is to create a community of kinship such that God might recognize it where there is no us and them. There's just us. The eighth element of Wayne Teasdale's universal spirituality is precisely this: love in action, selfless service, compassionate response. And it holds company with every other element of the spiritual life, each one supporting the other. Moral commitment, solidarity with all beings, nonviolence, humility, daily spiritual practice, self-knowledge, simplicity of life. Each of these creates the conditions from which genuine service can flow, and each of them is nourished in turn by the service that arises from them. Teasdale envisioned the elements of universal spirituality as a living system, not as a checklist. They mature together, and the absence of any one of them diminishes the rest. He was clear that the compassionate life is an emergent reality, arising organically from the inner life, like fruit from a well-tended tree. It grows from prayer, from contemplation, from honest self-examination, from the steady practice of opening to a love greater than ourselves, and it matures slowly, over years of faithful attention to what is deepest within us. What does this emergence actually look like in the dailiness of life? The temptation is to reach for the dramatic example, the life-altering sacrifice, the rescue at the crucial moment. And those occasions exist and they matter. The daily reality of compassionate service is quieter, more granular, more demanding in its own way precisely because it is unceasing. It lives in how a person listens. It lives in whether someone is truly present to another person's experience or only waiting for their chance to speak. It lives in choosing generosity over irritation, in remaining curious about another person's inner life rather than assuming one already knows it. It lives in the willingness to slow down when the pace of the day argues against slowing, to offer a quality of attention that says without words, "You matter, and what you carry matters to me." These are the ordinary proofs Teasdale had in mind, and they require exactly the interior formation that he spent his life describing. The depth of the inner life is what determines the quality of the outward response. The two cannot finally be separated. You cannot give what you do not have. The contemplative traditions confirm this understanding from every direction. Attention itself is a form of love. To truly see another person, to allow their reality to land in you, to let their sorrow or joy actually register in the body and not just in the thinking mind, this is already an act of profound service. Valerie Kaur teaches the encounter with the stranger should be met with open curiosity. You are a part of me I do not yet know. Thomas Merton wrote of the moment of recognition on a street corner in Louisville where he suddenly saw that he can love all these people, that they were not strangers but were himself. And he said, there is no way of telling people that they are all walking around shining like the sun. That recognition arose from years of prayer, years of interior cultivation, years of allowing himself to be softened by encounter with the divine. And that inner work produced the outward capacity. And the outward encounter deepened the inner life in return. Father Richard Rohr names this movement with his image of the second gaze, which is the contemplative seeing that becomes available when the first defensive, self-protective gaze is gradually released through practice. He says the first gaze is too busy weighing and feeling itself, asking how a situation affects me, calculating how to stay in control. The second gaze, the one that arises after honest prayer and stillness and self-knowledge, it's the one that can stand with and for the other without the filter of self-interest. And this is where true action must spring from, that Richard insists. Otherwise, most of what passes for service is merely reaction and does not bear lasting fruit. Both Merton and Rohr are, in this sense, confirming exactly what Wayne Teasdale claimed. The interior life and the compassionate life are a single reality, breathing together. By the way, if you want to read more about the second gaze, when you go to the Mighty Network for our event section, you will see a tab about the second gaze that you can read more on. And Valerie Kaur brings this understanding into sharp, embodied focus. She speaks of breathing as the first practice of love for herself, and she means something vast by that word. To breathe is to create space in our lives to slow down and care for our bodies, care for our minds and our spirits. It is also the act of nurturing one another in community, sustaining our capacity for care across time, and keeping joy alive within the labor. The person who gives from a depleted place gives differently than the person who gives from a full one. And Valerie speaks this plainly. You will not last if you are not breathing. What Wayne Teasdale describes as an emergent interior life requires exactly the kind of sustained tending Valerie Kaur is pointing to. The breath that nourishes the giver is the very precondition of service that endures. And Teasdale envisioned the person of mature spirituality as carrying both a vertical and a horizontal awareness simultaneously. And by the way, you can read more about this from Jim Finley as well. There is the vertical dimension, which is an openness to the divine, the consciousness of a transcendent reality that grounds all spiritual commitment. And then there is the horizontal dimension, the focus of loving awareness in relationship to all others, animated by kindness and compassion. It's alive to the preciousness of every person and every living thing. And these two dimensions belong together and deepen each other. Contemplative prayer is what opens the eyes to see the sacred face in the human face. The encounter with the human face, held with genuine attention, continually returns the heart to the sacred. The kitchen, the office, the phone call, the passing encounter with a neighbor who seems weighted by something unseen. These are all the spiritual life given daily form. And what the path offers over time is a growing capacity to hold both of these directions at once, so that the movement between prayer and action, between receiving and giving, between being filled and being poured out, begins to feel less like it feels less like alternation and more like a single continuous rhythm. So the vertical and horizontal become, in the person of genuine spiritual maturity, one unbroken movement of awareness. Each ordinary encounter becomes a place where the divine is met. Each small act of care becomes a form of prayer. Each genuine act of service carries within it the entire arc of this journey. And every ordinary act of care, at its root, is love made visible. The proof, exactly as Teasdale named it, of a life grown real. And this is what we refer to at Contemplative Inner Being as the mysticism of ordinary life. Not too long ago, just a few months ago, Mirabai Starr released a book on that very topic. So let's take a moment of silence here just to connect with this a little bit deeper before we go into practice. And remember to breathe. Breathe. In addition to sharing reflection, I'd like to give us an opportunity for practice to try to embody what we have talked about, to move from the head to the heart, so to speak. So let's take about 6 or 7 minutes and join together in practice. Settle into your body. Feel the chair beneath your feet or the floor under your feet. Let that contact be real, not imagined, not described, simply felt. You are here. And the body knows it before the mind does. Take a breath. Let the body soften and expand. Release it without hurry. Take another breath and feel the small pause at the end of the exhale. That still place before the next breath arrives. You didn't summon it, it came. Something in you already knows how to receive. Bring your attention to your hands. Let them open in your lap and simply feel them. Their warmth, the slight weight of them, the pulse moving quietly beneath the skin. These hands have given care, not in exceptional ways alone, but in the ordinary hours of an ordinary life. A meal prepared, a door held, a task taken up so someone else could set things down. Now let one moment come forward, something small, perhaps something you have never thought of as significant. What was that small act? Let it arrive in the body before the mind reaches for it. Where do you feel it? In the chest, in the throat, the soft interior of the palms. Wherever it is, stay there and let that sensation speak to you. Good. Now turn toward a moment of receiving. Someone once slowed down when you needed them to. Someone offered something to you, attention, steadiness, quality of presence, and they did it without being asked. Let that memory arrive. Where does it live in the body? Observe it. What is the texture of it? Warmth, ache, relief, some mixture you have no name for? Notice. Notice what it feels like to have been seen, to have been held even briefly by another person's care. Now stay with both, the giving and the receiving. If you can, notice the difference in sensation between them, where one opens in the chest and the other tightens, where both feel like the same moving current in different directions, or where they feel like the same thing entirely. Good. Bring to mind the ordinary landscape of your days, the people you move through life with, the responsibilities you carry, the brief encounters woven through the unremarkable hours. In that landscape, where does care arise in you most without effort? Like water finding its level. Where does it cost you something? Where does it ask for a choice you have been turning over without quite making? And where do you arrive at the end of a day of giving, depleted or strangely full, heavy or quietly grateful? What does that feel like in the body? What does it tell you about how love moves through you and what it needs to keep moving? Now, without forcing an answer, let the body hold this question. Where is love asking to become more present in my ordinary life? Where is love asking to become more present in my ordinary life? Let that question settle like a stone finding the floor of still water. Watch what rises. A person, a habit, a place in your days where something has been waiting. And stay with that sensation of whatever arrives. Let it be felt before it is understood. Breathing in, I open to this moment. Breathing out, love moves through my hands. As we move into the silence, you can carry that brief mantra with you or simply just sit in silence. Breathing in, I open to this moment. Breathing out, love moves through my hands. Breathing in, I open to this moment. Breathing out, love moves through my hands. Friends, let your awareness gently return to the space around you. Listen to the sounds in the room. Feel your feet on the floor. Breath moving quietly in and out. And may you carry with whatever you found in this practice with you. In whatever small form it takes, it will be enough. It will be real. Let's take another deep breath together as we move into our dialogue questions. Good. I'd just like to share 4 dialogue questions, and you can feel free to provide any immediate responses in the chat tonight. They will be posted on the recording page so that you can engage them longer, deeper, share with one another what thoughts are coming up for you. Let me just go through these 4 and share them now. Wayne Teasdale called love and action the proof of the genuineness of one's spiritual life. When you consider your own daily choices, relationships, and responsibilities, where do you most clearly see that proof at work in yourself, and where do you sense the invitation to grow? Next, the spiritual traditions suggest that compassionate action emerges naturally from a deepening interior life rather than from willpower or obligation. What has your own experience taught you about the relationship between inner practice and the quality of care you are able to offer others? Next, ordinary life is full of moments that quietly ask something of us. The difficult conversation, the person who is easy to overlook, the responsibility that falls to us when we are already tired. How do you discern in those moments what genuine love actually requires of you? Next, service sustained over a lifetime requires that the one who gives also learns to receive. So where in your own life do you find it easier to give care than to receive it? And what do you understand spiritually about why that asymmetry exists? I'm going to pause for just a moment just to sit here with you as you ponder that. If anyone would like to share anything, I'll give a minute or so to let you think and type. Friends, again, whether you were here for the live session or you are watching the recording, thank you for continuing to be part of our community. The recording will be available on YouTube and on the Mighty Network page. The questions for deepening will be available on the Mighty Network recording page as well. Thank you all so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you again next Sunday. So good night for now. Blessings to all.